Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Microsoft Product Terms Licensing Update for March 2024. How's everyone doing today?
Good, thank
Thanks,
you.
Carl.
Thanks,
Good
Carl. All
stuff.
good.
So yeah, a few updates this month. Quite a few, but no massively material updates, and probably fair to say. So a lot of kind of small changes, but still quite a few changes nonetheless. So hand it over to you, Neve, first, and maybe you can give us a quick run through what you've looked at.
Sure, thanks, Carl. Yeah, there's a couple of entries to do with previews. So they've updated the universal license terms for online services, where they've added clarity that additional preview terms may apply. And look, for previews, that's essentially where you have services kind of that are not generally available. They're still kind of in beta stage, etc. So in the terms of like the SLA for online services, that doesn't apply. Microsoft can kind of pull a preview kind of at any time and so on. So what it calls out in the universal terms is that additional supplemental terms may apply, for specific kind of services. And when it comes to previews, they have a second entry there saying that for the glossary that they've updated the definition of preview, like with the same thing, adding clarity that additional preview terms may apply. But when I went into the glossary, it's not there. And so that kind of makes sense. And then finally, for privacy and security terms, it's simply where Copilot for Microsoft 365, that's been included in the terms for location of customer data at rest, for core online services and the Office 365. And they've added Azure VMware solution to the core online services. So that's simply it from me.
Great stuff. Thanks, Neve. Over to you, Richard.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. I guess, like you said, there wasn't a lot of change this month. So I looked at the Office desktop application for Windows and the Windows desktop operating system. If you remember the whole graduation benefits, that has been retired. So they simply removed the language for academic program customers. And so that change applied to both the Office desktop applications and the Windows desktop operating system. So those were the two that I looked at this month.
Very good. So from my side, there's a couple of updates on Microsoft Office 365, Microsoft Teams, and Microsoft Intune, should I say. So looking specifically at Microsoft 365, first, we saw this month Microsoft introduce a clarification around Microsoft bookings for Microsoft 365 F1 user mailbox use rights. So in this clarification, we see how Microsoft state that an F1 does not include rights to an Exchange mailbox. They state how a F1 license may come with an Exchange Online K1 service plan enabled, but that it is up to the IT department of whatever organization is using the product to make sure that when, if this is provisioned, that basically that the access is being withdrawn from users. So yeah, quite an interesting one that the guardrails aren't in place, so organizations could, I guess, based on this clarification, inadvertently fall outside of Microsoft's licensing terms, but the onus is on IT departments to disable the relative functionality. And they also had a note, strangely enough, that IT departments need to make end users aware that they're not entitled to access Exchange mailboxes through other methods. So clarification on more than anything else on that one, and links to steps on how to disable the relative functionality. The second thing I looked at was Microsoft Teams phone standard for frontline workers. So like we see every month now, this is purely just an update to the availability tables for team phones standard for frontline workers, as well as some guidance on the associated prerequisite licenses required. So in this case, a Microsoft 365 F1, F3, or Microsoft 365 F3, or sorry, an Office 365 F3, should I say. Also on Intune, we saw another add to the availability tables, and this refers to the Cloud PKI a regular PKI user license, as well as Cloud PKI, should I say, for frontline worker products. So again, just adding it to the availability tables and specifying some of the prerequisites associated with licenses needed to obtain those rights. For those who aren't familiar with Cloud PKI, basically it simplifies certificate management for organizations and is a is a part of the Intune family. So yeah, they were the key updates from my side. So really a couple of adds to the availability tables, some licensing prerequisite changes, and then that clarification on Office 365. So I hand it over to you, William, to roll through the last couple of updates.
Thank you. So yeah, so just a couple. So Microsoft Dynamics 365 services. So there's a new minimum 10 user subscription license requirement for Dynamics 365 for Finance Premium. And they've also simplified the rules on mix and match requirements to meet the user's functional requirements and roles. So there's no differentiation between Dynamics 365 for finance or Finance Premium. So they're seen as basically the same product SKU when mixing and matching between the different Dynamics licenses and services that users may need. So that's only when it's deployed under a separate instance, and the license users can only access those instances to which they're entitled. So it's a bit of a strange nuance one, but so on a slightly simpler note is the GitHub offerings, which is more of an advisory note. There's been a big general cleanup of the organization of the GitHub product page to help with readability and accuracy, because I think it was all getting a bit out of hand. So they've just brought that back into line.
Very good. So that about wraps things up for this month's product terms update. Watch out for next month's product terms update, which we'll publish out in the Medium channel. Watch out for the blog, should I say, associated with today's video recording, and the various other bits of content that we'll be publishing out over the course of the month on all things Microsoft licensing related. As usual, if you have any questions or queries off the back of today's session, do feel free to reach out to us here at the Version 1 Software Asset Management Practice. We'd be delighted to handle any questions you might have. So until next month, or next recording, should I say, we'll see you then. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.